Welcome to podcast number 18. And today, as I've said again, every time, a spontaneous podcast. I've been my whole life doing things very strictly with a lot of discipline, and I don't know what more. And it's good to be either free to be able to do something and be feeling free about it. And that's the way this is going to go. So I really don't quite know where it's going, and we will see where it goes. A little bit like the way possibly Schubert wrote his music. Schubert maybe have written music not quite always knowing where it was going. It certainly did go somewhere, but anyway, it was possibly not necessary to always know. One of the things I always used to say to my students, to go anywhere, you've got to first of all know where you are. I remember when I was doing concerts in Japan, and what happened, I learned this lesson quite well because it was in the days that not that many people spoke English. In fact, hardly anyone spoke English. And I remember going for a walk, and I thought while I was walking, okay, I can remember this because I could see the neon lights of Sony or some other place, and I could see all these Mitsubishi lights flashing and so on. Okay, that corner's got Mitsubishi, this corner has got Sony. Okay, I'll remember that. When I come back, I can see that. Then I've got to go to the right. Okay, then I knew how to walk. So I start walking. After around about 5 or 10 minutes, well, I thought, well, maybe I should go back now because I've been going for quite a while, and I wonder, okay, so I'll walk back. So I walked back. I thought, God, where are those lights? Where are the lights gone? There's no Sony, there's no Mitsubishi anymore. They seem to have gone. And now there were completely different things being advertised. Of course, that changes every minute or so. And I didn't think of that. And then I realized to be able to go anywhere, you've got to know where you are. You can't, if you're in a certain street and you don't know the name of the street and you can't identify where that is, it's very difficult to go to another place that you want to go to. You may be able to look at the moon or the stars or something like that, like they did with ships, but I don't think we can do that always when we're just walking around the big cities. So this is one of my lessons that I learned. And what do I mean by that? Well, I think it's important in music. What I don't often hear, and what I think is dreadfully important when people are performing or playing, I think we need to hear when music goes away from the tonic and how it then moves around and comes back to the tonic. It's as if so you've got to hear how the music comes back, how it returns. Sometimes it can be a surprise, and then it's a real surprise. That's the fun part about it. It doesn't have to always be perfectly done, but it's great to have these surprises every now and again. Well, anyway, let me not talk on like this too long because these things are pretty common and possibly well known. Everyone knows that, of course they do. But let me go on with what I was doing in the last podcast. A few pieces that I think could be played more often, and certainly by young people. They're wonderful pieces to play. And I've chosen a few pieces, a couple of pieces by Eric Satie. And in playing these pieces, I think that you can learn a lot. You can really learn what simplicity means, how to play simply, without any added thing, no ego, just simply playing. And, you know, this is one other thing that I learned when I was a repetiteur in an opera, and I was doing every week a different opera, and I had as my task to play the whole piano parts for the whole scene for everyone who was coming from all different lands to perform, because they did an opera every week. And I had to just play through prima vista all these pieces. And I learned something, because of course the scores of Verdi and the scores of some other composers, but certainly Verdi, the opera scores of Verdi had a lot of octaves and a lot of thirds in them. And I had a rule. I made a rule for myself. I made a rule to say, Geoffrey, if you can't play all the notes, you've got to resign, because that means that you're losing it. You've got to play all the notes. Now, I discovered something there. What happened was, because I had all these quite great artists who have been performing these operas possibly 10 years of their lives and going the world round with these works. So they knew these operas backwards, and they would be on the stage while I was there. And I learned that just playing an octave was easy. Playing in octaves, if I didn't think about it, I was listening to everyone around me, listening and fascinated by what they were doing, really incredibly inspired by the way they were singing. And this somehow just made me loose. And just not thinking about it, not actually focusing too much on this point. As a result of that, it sort of became loose and easy. And it was one of the things that I discovered as a result of that there are basically no difficult works. Everything is basically easy if you know how to do it. But you don't want to focus too much on it, because if you do, it makes it smaller. It makes it more maybe more concentrated. But the question is that a good thing? I'm not so sure. I don't think so. And that's why I've chosen a few of these pieces, just to let you hear a few things that I'm explaining a little bit what I'm talking about. Here is a little bit of the Sonatina Bureaucratique from Erik Satie. Something like that. I haven't played these pieces for maybe 50 years, but anyway, it just gives you a bit of an idea. Just playing it without too much concentration, so that it just has the room to become what it is. That's the very thing that I think music has got to be able to do. It's got to somehow be played in a way that it sounds like what it is, and not what we want it to be. Such a lot of music is played in the way we want it to be. And I think we've got to let the music come to us instead of we going to the music. When the music comes to us, we don't play on the piano. We let the piano come to us. We don't put it in the piano. We take it out. And that's what I'm trying to do. So let me just do that again and let you hear it. It gives a bit of an idea. And just being what it is. I think Erik Satie is a composer where you've really got to do this. Just letting it be. And I think we often hear Satie played in a way as if it's almost Beethoven, so concentrated, and so it should be not over-practiced. It sounds really bad, of course. It's the worst thing. Every teacher will say to his students, oh, you must practice, you must practice. And that's, of course, true. Definitely the case. But somehow practice without trying to put things in, let it come to you. I think that's important. Then I had another piece, and it's also a piece by Erik Satie, Of course, a very well-known piece, this one, but this piece, beautiful. A bit of an example of what I meant. Just trying to let the music just be what it is, but breathing the music. Just letting it breathe. So much music doesn't have a chance to breathe, does it? And I think we need to fix that. I think we have to really work on those things, to just let it breathe, let it be. Actually, it goes much further than that. I've got a belief that the fingers have got to breathe also. That's one of the things I don't think I can explain it very well, but I really think that the fingers are basically electrical. There's a lot happening in these fingers that we don't realize. And the power of the fingers is miraculous. Of course, the power of the hand is just the same. It's also miraculous. But the thing is, I think we've got to leave it to these things to do their work. Let them do the work. And I think that's the way I like to see things happen. And then I'm very curious, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is it going to go this way, that way? And can I adjust it, or must I adjust it? Let it happen. To just let things go. It's not easy to do that in the beginning because we're so used to doing our scales and we've got to do them. Of course, we've got to practice those, but after we've practiced them, we've got to somehow let it go. I think what is necessary in piano playing today, for a new school of piano playing, is of course scales and arpeggios, exercises, definitely. Great, really important to study these things. But the difference is how to let it go. And how to let the arms just find their way to do it. And the hands have got an intelligence of themselves. The fingers also, they're intelligent, possibly in some ways more intelligent than we are. And I think we've got to leave a lot to that happening. And if we do that, I think it starts to breathe. Now, I hope you could hear a little bit of what I meant, that it was breathing. If it wasn't breathing, then I've failed. But okay, I'll do it again sometime and maybe I can do it better. But the thing is, I want it to have that freedom. You know, another piece which I often think doesn't breathe, that's a prelude of Chopin. There's a prelude. I'm sure everyone knows this prelude. something like that. At least that's my idea of it. I find it's a piece which has got great majesty and great, it is the expression of the Polish people. And I think it's got to really have that soul feeling in it. You've got to feel the real heart of the people. It shouldn't sound pompous. I hope this didn't sound pompous. If it did, please write to me, because I certainly will fix that for the next time. But the thing is, I think that it's dreadfully important to play these pieces in a way that we give the real feeling of the soul of the piece has got to come. And what I just mentioned before, when we're too busy concentrating, the question is, I think we lose something. We've got to let it go. As I said earlier, let the pieces just be themselves. Let them be as they are. Well, anyway, it's just an idea of mine. And I mean, I've got a lot of these ideas. Maybe they interest you. Maybe you find them interesting. There's another composer, I think a dreadfully important composer. I used to play him a lot when I was younger, and I haven't played this piece ever, but it's a piece by Cyril Scott. And Cyril Scott was one of the English composers. He was very much influenced by Scriabin and by Debussy. A great composer, not played ever anymore hardly. Very seldom do you hear any of these pieces. And I think they are worthwhile listening to. And let me just play you a part of this piece that you can hear what I'm talking about. So, fantastic piece. And there are many pieces by Cyril Scott, piano concerto also. You never hear them. Like many of the English works, there's so many wonderful pieces. The Michael Tippett piano concerto, wonderful piece, not often played, should be played more. And also the piano sonatas of Michael Tippett, wonderful pieces. And not to forget one of the first composers I ever played when I was a young boy of about 10 was the pieces of John Ireland. I loved his sonata. I loved it. I remember it starting like that. Something like that it started. I've forgotten exactly how it was now, but it was a wonderful piece, and I loved playing that. I adored it. And Arnold Bach's. Why aren't these pieces more often played? They should be a part of the repertoire of the whole, not only England, but Europe, everywhere. They should be performed. Anyway, who knows that they might come in the future. These pieces, I just wanted to mention them to you because I think they're so good, and they deserve to be played and played more often. There's another piece I wanted to mention to you that's from Turina, Josephine Turina. Turina, one of the great composers, and somehow also not often played anymore. And yet he's written some wonderful pieces, some wonderful works which really deserve to be looked at. One of them is this: if my glasses are going to be right because my eyes are not quite what they used to be, but looking at it. So on. We could go on and on and on and on. But these, just to give a bit of a demonstration of what I meant anyway. So I think you've got a fair idea of now what I'm thinking about. So there's things I think need to be looked at much more, and not only the basic repertoire, which of course we need, but we should be going into much more repertoire. And then I don't want to forget the contemporary music. That's such an important area which really needs playing and performing. We've got to see how the public reacts to our pieces and how they react to our performing of these pieces. So please look into those things and do what I was suggesting. Let it go and be free and easy and play more relaxed and enjoy the playing, because that's the thing we need to see and feel. Thanks a lot for listening. And if you've got any questions or anything to ask, please do so, because I read all of the comments. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.